All right. Good morning, folks, and welcome to FYI. Wherever you're joining us from this morning, happy Monday, folks. Hope you guys have had a good weekend. And if you had a good weekend, you did a little better than me. But good to see all of you on the live, folks. It's another week. It's Monday, it's September 28th. And good to see Sharma, and I see Janet, and I see Jolly and Sabrina Blue. Vibert Yap is here as well, all of our favorite folks. Good to have all of you here with us, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wherever you're joining us from this morning, it's really good to have all of you here with us, and we want to get right on with it this morning, folks. It's Monday, first day of the week. The month is already gone. As I said, it's the 23rd day of September. We got literally a week left in September, and then we're in October, November, December. The year is done. The year is done. Good to have you here, Bushmaster and Wayne and Sabrina. How many of you looking forward to 2025? What an interesting year that is going to be. Leslyn and Gwyneth, Elizabeth the 23rd. Elizabeth, good to have you on the live this morning. The first 15 folks, and we want to get right to it this morning. We want to get right to it. You know, last week, coming into the weekend, we had an issue with what was happening there at Tushen. That young man at Tushen, my lord. Right? Are we going to call that racism? What do you want to call that? A spat in the community, folks? That's what we're going to call that? Well, we got lots happening, folks. Lots happening. And that was, I think the young man's name is Joel Dotson. As you know, trying to eke out a living there in Tushen housing scheme. And he's been bombarded from left, right, and center, trying to eke out a living and provide for his family. Yeah. Over the weekend we saw Member of Parliament Amanzo Walton Desir speak to that issue. We're going to talk about it a little bit on our broadcast this morning, but we wanted you to have some of what Amanzo Walton Desir, Member of Parliament, said about this matter over the last weekend. Take a look, folks. Take a listen.
I wanted to come on here today and talk to us about what we've been seeing happening in our country for the last few days. What am I talking about? You know, I saw a Facebook Live with a young man who was clearly being persecuted because of his race in his business endeavors. And then I read of one of the most notable figures of our arts and culture landscape, Mr. Thom, being constructively dismissed, effectively, being forced to resign from his position as head of the Borough School of Art. And, you know, it struck me that here are two Afro-Guyanese men, different stratas of the society, different spheres of existence and operation, but facing the same issue, this issue of racism. And it occurred to me that this is something that we have to speak on. And this is something that we have to confront frontally. And, you know, you look at it and you see one common thread, the subjugation of what appears to be the attempt to subjugate Afro-Guyanese. And when it comes to the issue of Mr. Thom, I want to make it very clear that I believe that Charles Ramsden should resign. And I believe that if Irfan Ali and Bar Jagdeo are serious about this one Guyana that they trot around the world talking about, if they're serious, they will require his resignation, because Charles Ramsden has been excessively disrespectful of the Afro-Guyanese community. I remember some years ago when he said that Afro-Guyanese did not have role models. And I took umbrage to that, because in my own home, I had two very fine role models, Joy and Ovid Walton. A man and a woman who served this country. My mom was a teacher. My father was in the military. So I took umbrage to that. And he was allowed to get off with a pat on the wrist for it. And that must stop. To tell one of our foremost artists in this country, a man whose contributions far outweigh anything that the current Minister of Culture will ever hope to achieve. That he is not the face of what he wants his ministry to stand for is disrespectful. What is his face? His face is a black face. His face is a face like mine. What are you suggesting, Mr. Rampton? And so for Jack Dio to rescind or to reverse Mr. Thom's constructive dismissal is not sufficient. Charles Ramson must resign. Because I will tell you, culture is perhaps the one area of Guyanese life, the one space, the one thing that has the potential to unify us as a people. And so when you have an obviously divisive figure like Charles Ramson leading such a ministry, it's a non-starter. He has no place there. He continues to be belligerent. He continues to attack Afro-Guyanese, and he cannot lead any culture ministry. So I'm saying to Irfan Ali and Barjaki that if you are serious about practicing what you preach, Charles Ramson must resign. Nothing else will do. And let us have somebody at the helm of culture that understands the importance of culture and understands the importance of culture to forging a Guyanese identity. I want to.
Yep. That's some what happened over the weekend, folks. Our sister Manzo Walton Desir there having a go at it, delving into two issues. One, the young man at Tushen Joel Dotson, and also what happened to Mr. Tom there at let me make sure I get it right, the ER Borough School of Arts, and this is Mr. Ivor Tom. Ian Ivor Tom. And folks, as you delve into that, that's the substantive issue that's going to form part of our discussion this morning. It's very troublesome, very, very, very troublesome. Some of what we heard on that front, very, very troublesome, folks. And so we're going to be looking at that. Good to have all of you on the live this morning. As I've said, we're going to be talking about that among some other issues. So especially this second instance here, because that is quite a scandal. And as you heard there, the MP asking for, rather demanding the resignation of Charles Ramson. This is the first time, he has ventured into this area. And this is like the third rail of politics in this country. This is like the third rail of politics. It should not be trifled with lightly at all. It just should not. Right? So, folks, we are watching that. And let's see how much further we get into our discussion on this matter this morning. Forgive us if it occupies a big slot of what we have to say this morning and or what we have to present as our programming this morning. Certainly, you will forgive us. But that being said, I think Amans give us some background there. And if you just bear with me a quick sec, I think we're gonna have a guest this morning. So bear with us, folks. We are gonna have a guest this morning as we proceed into this discussion and exactly what transpired and what do we know about this particular issue here. These are very, very very, very difficult subjects, as Amanda said here, but we have to confront them frontally. Folks, I'm privileged this morning to have on the live with me none other than Amanda Walton this year. Amanda, very good morning and welcome to our broadcast.
Good morning, Jared, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
Thanks for joining us at very, very, very short notice.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah, so
always happy to be on with you.
So we know that you have been a little busy and you're back now. And one of the things that you've been talking about is this issue of the Yarborough School of Arts head, Mr. Ivor Tom, and what transpired over, early in this month. From all reports, he was in the parking lot trying to trying to get out. Somebody was blocking him leaving there. He tried to get the person to move, and then that seems to have deteriorated quite rapidly. Racial slurs being hurled, and then he is summoned to a meeting with the minister, and then he tendered his resignation after that. Amanda, talk to us. You've been talking about this issue.
Well, look, like I said, Charles Bramson should be removed from the Ministry of Culture. I do not know Mr. Thom personally. What I know is, I mean, I've met him, but I know of his contribution, like I said, to the arts and culture of this country. A known sculptor, someone who has mentored a lot of the artists that we see emerging today. And so for me, his contribution nationally requires a certain level, I would think, of respect from the minister, who, like I said, can't accomplish a quarter of what that man has contributed to the national cultural landscape in his lifetime.
Correct.
The other point is that culture is the one galvanizing thing that Guyanese have. You look at when we get together at CPL, you look at when the Tassa drums and the African drums are beating together. It is almost as if Guyanese become unaware of all of these divisions that exist in our country. It is the one sphere that we operate in that has the potential to unify us as a nation. And so to have a polarizing brat like Charles Ramsden at the helm of that is problematic, because it's not the first time, it's not the second time that Charles Ramsden has made very clear anti-Black, anti-Afro-Guyanese statements, very disrespectful statements. And he has been allowed to get away with it. He has been allowed to get away with it. And so, Irfan Ali and Barry Jagdeo, if they are serious and they want Guyanese to take them seriously, okay, let's take them at their word. But taking them at their word means that Ramsden must resign. Taking them at their word that they didn't know or they didn't infringe on Melissa Atwell's family's rights, etc., means that the officers who conducted that raid without the knowledge of the police hierarchy, etc., should be disciplined. It is enough now. They can no longer just deny this and deny that. They have to take positive action to demonstrate that they mean what they say.
Positive,
right? So,
yeah. Positive action. Manson, let's talk about a couple allied issue with this one, because I think frontally we have to say that this is very racist in nature, very racist in nature. The racial slurs that were hurled at Mr. Tom, his engagement with the minister,
absolutely.
and very sadly, Mr. Tom ended up tendering his resignation because
And
we were made to understand that this wasn't his very first engagement with the minister, and having a certain response out of the minister. But I wanted to point out, as we frame this discussion, Amanda, that you are the shadow minister of international affairs and international foreign affairs and international cooperation, and Guyana is a signatory to some human rights treaties, including the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Is part of what we're seeing here, because we saw, I think, over the weekend, I think VP Jagdeo would have called Mr. Tom and offered him his job back. Is this, I think you talked about a part of it on your live, what is said versus what is done and accepted within the PPP. Part of what is said is the optics. They want to reposition the party of being welcoming to Afro Guyanese, and we see them trotting out a couple Afro Guyanese faces to say we like Afro Guyanese. But is this what is done in the PPP? This kind of meeting with Mr. Tom, you got to keep him in his place. He's in the face of what we want to see going forward and what is accepted really and truly. This is really the status quo in the PPP.
Look, nothing short of Ramson being removed from the Ministry of Culture, resigning as the Minister of Culture, will suffice. Understand that calling Mr. Tom and offering him back his job is window dressing. Until you display a rejection of the type of behavior that Charles Ramson has displayed, you're not going anywhere. So you call him and you offer him back his job, and Ramson remains there with his expressed positions against Afro Guyanese. And you're fine with that. No, it cannot be. It cannot be. They have to demonstrate distance from that type of behavior. And that can only be demonstrated by disciplinary action against the offender, who in this case is Charles Ramson. And the asininity of the guy. Anybody knows that in any school environment, the principal is the head. If you go into a school and the principal says, please don't park there, you respect that. For the minister to ask the principal of a school whether he is the security, it's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And does demonstrate a lack of understanding on Ramson's part about basic things. So reversing and telling Mr. Tom that he has to take back his job, etc., is not enough. They must display condemnation for the behavior. And Charles Ramson must be disciplined. He has been carrying on with his foolishness for far too long. You remember the first time he said black people have no role models.
Yeah. Here's Mr. Tom. Maybe it's because we are quote unquote proverbially, figuratively killing them. In the case of Mr. Tom,
right?
A guy who, as you articulated, has made his contribution, respected by his students who wrote a very strong letter on this matter, totally respected from the community.
So, like I said, Terry, you're reversing the decision is not enough. Charles Ramson must resign. We have to begin to demand that this government actions match their words. They're being allowed to get away with trotting around this globe and talking about one Guyana and so on. I noticed Irfan Ali is in New York and so forth. The UNGA is going on, and a lot of speechifying and promoting of this one Guyana. But we have to get in to their faces and demand now that their words match their actions. Okay, he did this, he must go because this is not what we stand for. Not that, oh, well, you see, we gave back the man his job. No, deal with the behavior that produced that result in the first place. And then maybe we're going to take you seriously. Just maybe.
Correct. And Amanda, on that very note, you've answered part of the question, but I wanted to broaden it and have you weigh in. Does a return for Mr. Burrows? I know he said if he at least attributed to Sabbath News, if he returns, or him mulling this over whether he returns, would he would be taking into consideration his students, and one wonders if a return to the Burroughs School of Arts does anything to really fix this problem that our country has. Right? You did mention the minister's disposition to Afro-Guyanese. Does this solve any of that? This lady in this red van or whatever color the vehicle she was driving, her own attitude. Do we fix that? And there's a larger thing here too of the treatment of Afro-Guyanese in the public sector. Period.
It sure don't fix it. It does not fix it. It does not fix it. And this point has to be made, Sharon. People do not just get up one morning and decide that they're big and they're bad and they're going to treat Afro-Guyanese however they want. Like I said in that live, They are a part of the silent, quiet conversations. They know that this type of conduct is going to be condoned and they're going to be tacitly supported. They know this. If they were uncomfortable that displaying racist tendency and blatantly discriminating against Afro-Guyanese would be treated condignly, they would stop. But because they know that this is how the people at the top truly feel about Afro-Guyanese, because they know that they have been told very clearly that suppression and subjugation and obstruction of Afro-Guyanese, unless we can bend them to our will, is the order of the day, because they know that they have been told explicitly, man, we gotta do the political thing at the top, but you gotta do at the bottom there. They have been told that. And so this is why you go on the quarantine at 60, at 63, at 51, at 53. And relatives of ministers believed that they could talk to people anyhow, that they could subjugate people anyhow. It's not going to work. Yeah. It's not going to happen. You go to any public office as an Afro-Guyanese, you are subject to the most contemptible treatment, and it has to stop now. It has to stop.
Agreed. And part of the discussion you had yesterday with the public is about broadly the responsibility as well of civil society organizations. Because one has to wonder. Now, this has been in the press for a couple of days now. These racial slurs hurled at the administrator of the borough school, the minister's reaction to that. Where is the Ethnic Relations Commission, for instance? Do they have to get instructions from Irfan? Is not an independent organization.
No,
but for the man's who busy say something, it's another story.
They're busy monitoring Amanda and Sharon's feeds and Facebook posts, because understand that what has happened here is that the very instrument of the state has been weaponized against the population. So our institutions are not working in the manner that the Constitution intended them to. They have all been weaponized. Imagine some clerk or whatever she is at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, sorry, the Deeds Registry, is so pompous and puffed up within herself that she believes that she has a right to prevent the man from operating a legitimate business because she's connected to the minister and she can pick up the phone and call the minister. Same thing with whoever jumped out of the right vehicle for Mr. Sam, because you could place a call. Because you could place a call. You feed the and Sharon, why this is bothersome, because these people who get temporarily drunk off of power, they do not understand the dynamics of power. And they do not understand that when you actively break a system, when you actively corrupt a police force, when you actively undermine institutions, you contribute to the failing of your state. You contribute to the brokenness of your society. And you know what is the saddest part about it? A lot of them do it today without understanding that they're jeopardizing the Guyana of the future that their children have to live in.
But Amanda, there's another question there on that note. A lot of people do it today. One has to wonder, what about those people who never go live on a Facebook? On Facebook. What about those people like Mr. Tom, like Joel Dotson, whose own story never gets picked up by the news, but suffer the same indignity? Could you imagine how many times
Absolutely. This is replicated? No, but that is the lived reality of a lot of Afro-Guyanese. And not only Afro-Guyanese, Sharon, but if you are an Indo-Guyanese and you do not dance to the tune of the big boys in power, you are also subject to that treatment. And so that is sufficient for Guyanese from all walks of life, from whatever ethnicity, to open their eyes and to see that this is not about Black and Indian alone. This is about a core of people in the hierarchy of the PPP with their friends and families and favorites who believe that this country belongs to them, that the patrimony of this country is theirs alone, and that they must decide who will get it. And unless you can bend to their will, unless they can make you a little one of their minions, you have nothing to get. That is not how a country should be run. And you talk about civil society, I may have missed it, but I have not yet seen the Council of Churches or any church body come out to talk about the arrest of this pastor and the organist. Mm-hmm. I could have missed it, but I haven't seen
a whole program by itself. The religious aspect of it. The largest NGO in this country, right? The church, whichever side of the aisle you want, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, the church in this country, the largest NGO in this country, and one of the most docile. That's another aspect of this discussion. But we know that you have on particular occasions members in the PPP are trotted out, the Onish Waldrons of this world, the Mark Phillips of this world, to talk about Black people and how the PPP loves Black people. Where are they now? Where are those voices?
Those are people without any backbone. And so they will not come out and say anything. It doesn't matter how offensive the conduct is to their conscience. They have subjugated their conscience to expedience. And so it does not matter to them. They do not have the testicular fortitude. None of them to stand up and say, this is wrong. Even in my own party, it takes courage to do that, and they lack it. So I don't expect any statements from them, because for them, it's about eating the fat. For them, it's about staying in the sweet, and that is what they choose to do. Guyanese have to choose to reject this type of conduct. They have to choose to reject this racism. They have to choose to reject this marginalization of any Guyanese in this country, because third, we are facing a far greater challenge. In that while they are here fighting down Afro-Guyanese and marginalizing Indo-Guyanese that don't agree with them, foreigners are coming into our country. And we continue to be so distracted with resisting suppression, and they continue to be so engaged in engaging in suppression that they do not understand that there's a country that has to be governed, that there is a country that has to be run, that there is so much to be done if Guyana is going to have a shot at success given the windfall that has come our way. Mm-hmm. The fact that they have time to engage in stupidness means that their eyes are not on the ball. So they have energy to do nonsense, but the energy to engage in the holistic, meaningful development of the country, they don't have it. They don't have the energy, they don't have the competence, and they do not care to do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we are going to have to go back into government, because I truly believe that we have a heart for the people, that we have a heart for this country, and we have a heart for the development of this nation. And that is where it begins, because if your motives are wrong, everything else wrong after them. I believe that we are the only group of people that can properly develop this country with the assistance of every Guyanese, irrespective of whether they're PPP, the PNC, or whatever. We do not have enough of us here in this country to maintain these very sometimes useless divisions. So I have a professional, but I ain't sure about their political affiliation, so I will not bring them in. Nonsense. Nonsense. We need his skills. We need her skills because this is bigger than any one of us. And if we reject competence because we prefer loyalty over competence in our public service, the sector that drives the growth of this country, then something is wrong with you mentally as a government.
Yeah.
Something is wrong with you.
Yeah. Very, very interesting times. Amanda, people talk about this government and the huge transformations that are happening, largest growing economy in the world, fastest growing economy, biggest GDP, and all of those things. But are we truly changing, or is just more of the same? We got some serious problems in this country. Are we solving them? For instance, Mansa, where demographics are concerned, some figures indicate that the largest ethnic group in this country are East Indian brothers and sisters, 43.5%. The Afro Guyanese make up 30.2%. Indigenous brothers and sisters, 9.2%. Yet we see that the Indo-Guyanese community controls 85% of the economy, and they've been strong considerations that we have to address this. For instance, Nigel Hughes, doing a piece of research titled Economy and Justice, talked about how all of the major constructions contracts have recently went to Indo-Guyanese. 82.5% of housing contracts alone by this piece of research went to Indo-Guyanese companies. Are we getting better? Or is this what, for instance, Freddie Kissoon wrote in 2010, note the year, about the PPP's governance in this seminal paper called Ethnic Power and Ideological Racism. And I just want to quote a part of it for the benefit of our audience and have you respond, Manza. Here he's talking about, again, ideological racism. And he says, ideological racism is a peculiar form of attitude. It is not as innocuous as the its situational counterparts. Its Hobbesian content makes it unacceptable. It can be defined by a state of reaction by the leader of a competing ethnic constituency, or the leaders of competing ethnic constituencies. The leader react with uncharacteristic haste in trying to weaken any plan or plot perceived adversarial, right? And he said, in typical Hobbesian style, he or she does not wait for the other side to make its move. It goes on the offensive with policies designed to gain advantage. Has anything changed since Freddie wrote this in, when he was a little sailor in 2010? You know?
It certainly has not. It certainly has not. But it is not something that has. It is something that has its roots, in my view, in post-colonial Ghana. The economic inequalities that we see happening didn't just happen, they were engineered. When slavery was abolished and freed Africans were released from plantations, they were released with nothing. They were released with nothing. It's a historical fact.
Mm-hmm.
When indentured servants ended their contracted period, they were paid with land and with money.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a contract. So this is what we agreed to.
Yeah.
And this is why it's very foolish when I hear people try to compare indentureship to slavery. It is okay to give Afro-Guyanese the benefit of the horror of that experience. It is okay. It does not negate your indentureship experience in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to try to equate the suffering. There's no equating of the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So that economic disparity happened from then. So you had one group of people who had nothing, and then you had a group of people who were given when their contract ended.
Yeah.
So that has perpetuated itself throughout the decades, throughout the years. Now, it requires an acknowledgement that before we can get to equality, there has to be equity. An equitable distribution means that one group of people may need a little more than the other.
Yeah.
So it has to be equity to get to equality.
And that is the significant differentiation, as it were. There's this
That is the significant differentiation. So when we talk about the distribution of wealth, and this is why the research that Nigel Hughes did is very, very important, because it paints in very stark terms that there is no attempt at equity. You go to the US, for example, there's an acknowledgement. And their system isn't perfect, but it works in some regards. There's an acknowledgement that some groups need more than others. So you find that in the government contracting sphere, there's a carve out for minority businesses. Then there's a further carve out for Black and Latino businesses. And then there's a further carve out for minority women businesses. Because there is a special understanding, and there's a particular understanding that if we are going to ensure that there is participation in the economy all around, it has to be deliberately engineered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a lot of work to do in this country. A lot of work to do.
Indeed, a lot of work to do. But there's another aspect of this discussion before I let you go that I want to raise. We saw recently there was a back and forth between Rickford Burke, some others, and some folks in the PPP. It seemed to me to say that, look, I am black, I'm in the PPP, and I'm doing well. And so you should come and join us. The PPP likes all of us. But is what we're seeing here with Mr. Ian Ivor Tom, what as you said, the phrase is the lived experience of the average African Guyanese in this country. You in office, but you don't really no power, right? You the administrator. You don't tell nobody who could park in the parking lot, who can go and who could come, right? You get the work because we allow it, but you don't really got no power to make a difference in the system.
And you know, Sharon, let me say this categorically. Any Guyanese is free to belong to whatever political party they want to belong to.
Correct.
What is an issue is your moral courage to speak up when you see wrong. That is what is an issue. You want to support the PNP, support the PNP. You want to support the PNC, support the PNC. It is a constitutional right guaranteed to you by the Constitution.
Correct.
Where I take umbrage is when you see wrong, you see your fellow Guyanese, Black, Indian, Amerindian, being victimized. And the cost of you remaining in a clique or remaining acceptable is your silence.
Yeah.
That is what I have a problem with.
And a lot of victimization happened over the weekend in this particular case of Ivor Tom, and then we can go on with Joel.
Oh, of course, for last week, though. We can start from Melissa Atwell and her family.
A lot of racism.
Let's start from there.
As we said to Mr. Tom, when you say, go, you get back your work, but it's the same boss.
Yeah, but what? To the same boss that hates you, possibly will find ways now to undermine you, deliberately so.
Yeah.
Starve the school of resources, because you know, child is a vindictive little gunner.
Marijuana.
You understand? Yeah. Charles is a very vindictive man, and so he will find ways to undermine the school. He'll find ways to undermine the reputation of the school because he is myopic. He is wicked. Yeah. And that is what he will do. And so this is why I keep saying that nothing short of his removal from culture will do. Culture needs somebody that has a vision for uniting this country. I look across the panoply of the PDP ministers and I don't see any. Look, Malik Chan has the gall, has the unmitigated gall to say that she wonders what would have happened if Jack Dio didn't build the stadium. Yeah. Because Jack Dio went in the bank to his bank account, took out this money from there, and say, you know what, I will bless the people of Guyana with this stadium. It's not taxpayers' money paid. And if, understand, no, look, Jared, you can have thoughts, you know. You can have thoughts, and you could think things. But when as a minister of education, you will take time to put finger to keyboard to type such bills. Yeah. Yep. It means that every filter has been lost. There's no longer a filter. There is no longer something that arrests the consciousness to say, you know what, I can't say this. And you know, when that happens, it means that their consciences have been seared and they are clearly operating as reprobates. And so there's no coming back for Guyana if these people continue to be in power and we don't vote them out at the next elections. Very well, very well, very well. Amanda, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome, Sharon. God bless and enjoy the rest of the day. Bringing some context to this discussion for us. Thank you so very, very much. We have a long ways to go, and I joined that call in saying that Ramson has to resign. Nothing less will do, and he needs help, clearly. There's not just resign and just go in a corner like Darmla. Both of them, in their respective areas of weaknesses, need some serious help. These aren't easy issues. And you know, Manja, before, I don't know if she's still there. No, I think she's gone. You know, another young man who was suffered like this, Ivan Benjam, was put in charge of the PYRG, the President's Youth Something initiative there, through the Ministry of Culture. In office, no resources. Why? Because Charles don't like Charles don't like him. And so all the people who saying, this is the ship I signed up with. Right? This is the ship I'm signing up. A man just said it very clearly there. Everybody got a choice constitutionally, I think natural justice and all of that, natural law and so on, to support whichever political party of your choice. But if you all want to go and sign up for this one, and you all seen all that you're seeing, instead of trying to come to the aid of his staff, ahead of a department that he controls, Ramson abused down the man for all that we know in the media. Abused down the fellow to the point where the man said it was untenable. Not once, not twice, not 3 times it happened. Different issues. The minister's attitude, not to correct wrong, say, I'm sorry you had to experience that as an Afro-Guyanese, as a human being. Somebody throwing racial slurs in your face. No. He had fuel to the fire. Fuel to the fire. You think you could solve Ramson problem alone? You got fire all of them. Fire Jack Neo, fire Irfan, Onage, Mark Phillips. They're the ones creating the enabling environment for this nonsense to flourish. They're the ones creating the enabling environment. And it is utter nonsense and utter foolishness. Now, in all of this discussion, a number of things have been proffered in terms of the way forward. As one, an urgent need for dialogue on these matters of national importance like this racism. Clearly, with the ERC there, you're gone quiet now, ERC. Right? Dialogue and reconciliation is one way we could go, and none of them are mutually exclusive.
addressing systemic racism. Systemic racism. If you're black, stay back. If you're brown, stick around. Systemic racism. We have to address it frontally. And the man said, spoke about some of this too. Promoting economic justice is a broader picture here. Policies that promote equitable economic opportunities for all Guyanese. That's one way to go. Strengthening institutions. I remember the public could just pick up the phone, call the minister. He will come and cuss you down. That's not a strong institution. That's not a strong institution. We don't like the image you painting for us as a government. Not once, not twice. He abuse you down, he cuts you down. Strengthening institutions. If we had strong institutions, the ERC, the Ethnic Relations Commission, would have be on top of this matter, would have already been on top of this matter. They won't have to wait to see if You're giving them a nod, or whoever is their political master or masters. They weren't waiting for that nod to pull in or to launch out on their own. Strengthening institution. There are a number of ways we could go, and as I said, none are mutually exclusive. Data collection and analysis on these issues. As we said in the discussion, how many persons go to a Facebook Live so you know what's happening? How many persons' story like Mr. Tom, like Joel, meets to the public domain so you have a sense of what is happening on the ground? There needs to be more data collection on this matter and analysis, implementing a system for collecting and analyzing, disaggregating this data on the socioeconomics, socioeconomic indicators is very, very crucial to understanding, mitigating, fixing these problems. We can no longer 50 plus years after independence, bury our heads in the sand and hope it go away. But we got to confront it frontally. That's what we got to do. That is what we got to do. So over to you, Ethnic Relations Commission. Over to you all, a weak and spineless organization. Over to you and the other civil society organizations as well. Over to you all. Over to you all. Folks, that's going to do it for us at this end this morning. Thanks for being here with us. Kelly Abrams and Terrence Dean, Andrew Griffith, Orwin Don Cook, Morning Sobi. Forgive us, we didn't get a chance to delve into any other issues this morning. Folks, do forgive us. We were tracking a number of other things this morning, but I don't want to come away from this substantive discussion to focus on that. But just to let you know, we weren't playing. We did have some other issues to talk about, but in the interest of time, it's going to take us more time than we have to get through them this morning. So let this suffice, folks. Over to you, ARC. Folks, go ahead and have a fantastic rest of the day. That is our wish and our hope for each and every one of you. Go ahead and have a fantastic rest of the day. Bushmaster and Pialicop, Orwin Don Cook, Sabina Brew, Marlene Thomas, good to see you on the live this morning, and Yvette Madu, Deborah Pearson. Good morning to each and every one of you. Lone Wolf, we see you there as well. Everett Small, good to have you. Gail Alicott, good to have all of you on the live. Folks, take care, and we're going to see you guys.